Ethics can seem a rather abstract topic, so here are 4 specific ideas for where we might apply it to our uses of data and artificial intelligence. Ethical purposes, ethical implementations, ethical use of data, and ethical explanations. We'll look at each of them in turn. Ethical purposes. Here there seems the best chance of identifying some purposes as ethical and some not. The much cited example of a college using data to discourage students likely to reduce its position in ranking tables would seem unethical no matter how the decisions were reached. But there are some purposes where we accept humans doing them but are uneasy about the involvement of algorithms. For example, when drones are used for targeted killing or software used to recommend whether or not to send a criminal to jail. So, should we do this, may actually have 3 answers: OK, not OK, and decision by human. Ethical implementations. It's easy to think of unethical ways of using the results of AI. An automated email saying "you will fail" is not going to pass many ethics assessments. However, some pure technology implementations might actually be more ethical than human-mediated ones. Dutch students preferred gentle reminders to do a bit more work that came from their mobile phone, not their tutor. We seem to have varying instincts about computers processing our data. Sometimes it's less privacy invasive than a human doing the same thing, but where computerization lets us do things that would previously have been impossible, this may well be perceived as intrusive. How are we doing this is definitely worth reviewing from an ethical perspective. Ethical use of data. Ethical questions arise both out of which data we use to reach decisions and the characteristics of the algorithms used to make them. However, both questions depend a lot on purpose and situation. Using location data to help a student find the right lecture theatre or library shelf seems to raise few ethical questions. Using the same data to judge whether they are in an appropriate place for Friday evening study would be much more troubling. We also need to think about how the data were obtained. A student volunteering the information that they are in the library may well be ethically different to extracting the same information from CCTV or Wi-Fi logs. What are we using it for this raises its own group of ethical issues. Ethical explanations. Whether there is a legal right to explanation is probably best left to lawyers, and extracting explanations from different forms of AI to technologists. But the kind of explanation we need to provide does seem to be an ethical question. Do we need to know in advance how an algorithm works, for example that we award bursaries or places fairly? Or be able to explain its conclusions retrospectively, to discuss with a student why they were recommended a particular course or what they might do to improve their predicted result? Or does it not matter so long as it gives the right outcome? Did it show this notice to the relevant people? Different ethical approaches ask slightly different questions, but in education we at least have a common point of reference. Article 26 of the UN Declaration of Human Rights says education should serve the full development of the human personality, strengthen respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, promote understanding, tolerance and friendship among all nations, racial or religious groups. Against that benchmark, we should ask and discuss who, whether people or groups, might our action benefit, who, again, people or groups, might it harm. Can we distribute that benefit more widely? And finally, can we distribute it more fairly?